Hey folks, this is Duger Does. Many of you know that I'm involved in the martial arts. I post videos about it, but I rarely talk about things within the martial arts that I feel need to be addressed. And to me, boxing is a martial art. So the topic of today is wheelchair boxing, and I want to weigh in on it because one, I'm disabled, and two, I'm a martial artist, and I've studied boxing. And where this all came from is last night a friend of mine tagged me in a video of a wheelchair boxer doing focus drills. And the guy had great skills. I'm not taking anything away from the guy. But there was something in the video that I commented on that started a firestorm with the guy who actually posted the video to begin with. And all I said was, and this is coming from the perspective of someone who practices self-defense and not so much sport. To me, I said, why not do the same drill with the guy in the wheelchair, the boxer in a wheelchair, without his wheels being locked down, either with the brakes or with something behind the wheels to keep it from moving around. Why not have him do the same drill moving? And the reason why I said that is because to me, on the streets, the punches are going to have a different effect if he's rolling while he's throwing them. And that's the only reason why I said what I said. Well, the guy who made the video called me out, pretty much told me I had no clue what I was talking about. And even though he understood the point where I was coming from, he said that I didn't understand his point that he made regarding wheelchair boxing. And he referred to these guys as athletes. And again, I'm not taking anything away from these guys who do this sport. But there are some things within the sport I think that should be made better to actually legitimize it as a sport. One that will not only put the abilities of the athletes on the map, but put wheelchair boxing on the map as well. And so what I did, since he said I didn't understand his point, I went and watched some wheelchair boxing videos. And here's what I took away from it. And here's what I think needs to change. For one, the boxers' wheelchairs are locked together with a chain. And the guy who made the video that I watched earlier said that they do that so that the boxers will focus more on upper body and punching. Well, again, as a self-defense person, on the streets, your opponent's not always going to be sitting right in front of you. In fact, the two men that were in the video were about from where I am compared to where the camera is. So there were some limitations within how much movement the boxers had. They had this movement, they could bob and weave like this, and they could bob and weave like this, but they couldn't really duck. Because if they duck too far forward, they're either going to headbutt their opponent or their head's going to be in their opponent's chest, opening them up to uppercuts and crosses, that kind of stuff. I had an issue with that. So that's why I kept talking about giving them room to move. That way, because a boxer just doesn't stand still. They bob and weave and they move around. That's how they avoid getting hit. And that's how they throw their punches. And I know that a wheelchair person is not going to be able to do those things, but they still have the ability to move because their legs are their wheels. And that's why I was coming from the point I was coming from. Second of all, when throwing punches, I noticed in the videos that a lot of these guys were just throwing hands. They wasn't really doing any boxing per se that I could see. And so I think more of the science needs to be taught to these guys, especially when you get into the bigger weights like the lightweights and the heavyweights. I just seen brawlers. I didn't see any boxers. And that was kind of disappointing. Three, by having the boxers just sit right in the middle of the ring and trade punches. It's more of a spectacle to people who don't know anything about being in a wheelchair or wheelchair boxing for that matter. To me, it just looks like, hey, look at those two goofs up there in wheelchairs beating the snot out of each other, because all you could really do is cover and then punch. There really was no movement, boxing, any of that. Cover, punch. And I didn't like that. To me, I just didn't think that was boxing. And if the IOC makes this a Paralympic sport, I feel that there need to be some changes made. One, allowing more movement between the two boxers. Being stationary is not boxing, because if you stay stationary, you're going to take a lot of hits. The whole idea around boxing is to avoid getting hit. Stick and move, stick and move. That is boxing in itself. And to me, the way wheelchair boxing is now, it just doesn't fit that mold. To me, it's just two guys sitting in the middle of the ring, beating the snot out of each other. In fact, I'll tell you what it reminded me of. It reminded me of the old Tough Man contest. Because you would get guys in there with no skill at all, just throwing hands. And there was no science of boxing in that sport. And there's a reason why Tough Man boxing Tough Man contest went by the way. Someone died in the ring. And I did like the fact that they did make the boxers wear headpieces and mouth guards. That really made me happy. I was glad to see that. But again, there's still some really improvements that need to be made. More of the science needs to be taught. Evasion skills really need to be taught. If I'm just going to sit there in front of a guy and take punches, I'm going to have to bob and weave, stick and move, do something, because taking that many blows to the head is not a good thing. And so I hope the IOC really looks at that and really, emphasizes, hey, the boxers need to move. And I understand that some of the boxers, or the gentleman that I spoke with who posted the original video, he talked about getting rammed. And what that means is, and I'll give you an example. I used to play wheelchair basketball. And one of the most painful things is to have a guy come wheeling up to you as fast as he can to get the ball from you, and his footrest connects with your shins. That is super painful. And two, getting pulled over off the chair. I understand that's no fun either. But you got to understand, you're in a sport that requires movement. I understood that when I played wheelchair boxing, or wheelchair basketball. It's going to happen. It's a rough sport. People are going to throw elbows. You're going to get knocked over. It just happens. And this is something that they're going to have to learn to accept as well. No, it's not fun getting knocked over, but that you play to pay the game, as they say. And so, with that being said, I want these guys who do wheelchair boxing to understand that I'm not taking anything away from them. Just sitting there like they are now and just trading punches, that's a workout in itself, because you would spend all your energy in just 30 seconds in a fight. That's a long time. And you can go through your energy pretty fast. So to train for multiple rounds, to be able to just keep throwing punches like that, that takes some cardio right there. That takes stamina. And I'm not taking nothing away from them. I just feel that, to me, the sport right now does not reflect these men who are doing this sport, both as disabled individuals and as boxers. And I welcome comments, folks. I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but understand, I'm coming at it from the point of view as, one, someone with a disability who's been in a wheelchair and knows what it's like to be in a wheelchair, and two, as a boxer, as a martial artist, I know that a lot of you guys don't learn boxing just to box, to get in the ring and make a name of yourself. A lot of you guys start boxing for what? To learn to defend yourself. And so for me, coming as a martial artist, self-defense guy, that's what I'm thinking of when I'm watching these boxing videos. I'm looking at it, how it would work on the street. And to me, the way it works now is teaching a lot of bad habits. Because if you're just stationary on the street, that's not how a fight is going to happen. You guys aren't going to be sitting just like this. You guys are going to be moving around, you know. That's just the way a fight goes. And yes, it'll eventually end up on the ground. But that's not what I'm talking about right now. Right now I'm talking about how effective are those techniques on the street. And for them to work not only on the street, but in the ring as well. So please, again, don't take anything I said to offense. I'm just giving my opinion on what I see. With that being said, this is Duger Does saying do good and deuces. Bye-bye, folks.